Yeah, good day and compliments, dear esteemed viewer, and welcome to today's edition of Citizens and the Law. Citizens and the Law is a program aimed at demystifying all issues standing as strange before the gullible hearers and laypersons towards the knowledge of their right, defense of this right, and then become law-abiding citizens. In our today's edition of Citizens and the Law, we are going to look at driving under the influence of alcohol. With me here in the studio to get all the I's and T's dotted and crossed vis-a-vis provision of answers to all the questions is Barrister Chika Okeke. Counsel, you're welcome to the studio.
You're welcome.
Okay, dear esteemed viewer, I just have to start by telling you Merry Christmas. Just some hours from now, we will be celebrating the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. But then it is important that we pass some advice across to road users to be careful how they consume alcohol. Hence, the topic for today is driving under the influence of alcohol. So, Counsel, given the topic we're doing today, I may want you to help the viewer out there and myself with the definition of what alcohol is. What is alcohol?
Well, alcohol can simply be defined as any drink or beverage containing ethanol. And this includes beers, spirits, wines, and other drink of that nature. So any drink consumable by human beings containing ethanol is classified or specifically classified as an alcohol. That's the simple definition of the word alcohol or alcoholic drink.
Very much. We also know that one can be influenced by some other things that is not alcohol. You may have to mention that in passing along the line as we go down the lane.
Well, alcohol is not the only thing that is capable of influencing human behavior or human cognitive processes. There are other things that can equally do the same thing, especially drugs. Even the drugs that are not harmful to human beings. Some of them may affect one's cognitive processes, and that is why sometimes after giving you some drugs, the doctor will advise you never to engage in certain acts, like driving and doing some other things like controlling machineries and all that. So drug as well can equally influence human cognitive processes or actions. Thank you.
Okay, this is ABS Television, Channel 2 for Oka. And I forgot to tell you that the presenter here with the council is Mr. Jude Mascott. Biago, that's my name. The second question, council, is there any legal limit for driving under the influence or driving with alcohol impairment?
Well, there are a lot of legal limits to which one can do one or two things while he's under the influence of alcohol. Specifically, there are a lot of laws that make provisions with respect to driving under the influence of alcohol. Here in Nigeria, the law states that someone who is under the influence of alcohol, to the extent that the alcohol will affect his ability to control or to be fully in charge of motor vehicles, that such a person cannot be allowed to drive motor vehicles. But it's not only driving motor vehicles, even a mere attempt to drive motor vehicles when you are in that state, or even being in charge of a motor vehicle without driving the same. The law equally bans that. So once you are under the influence of alcohol to such a degree that it will affect your ability to properly control a motor vehicle, the law frowns at that. But apart from that, you find out that in other jurisdictions like the United States of America, there is something that is generally called blood alcohol content or blood alcohol concentrations. And there are specific degrees beyond which one would not be allowed to drive motor vehicles. We've not gotten to that stage in Nigeria. In United States of America, for example, when your blood alcohol content or your blood alcohol concentration is at 0.08 or beyond 0.08, you cannot be allowed to drive motor vehicles. And if you do that, you will be held accountable for breaching the law that says that you will not do that. But generally, you find out that if your blood alcohol content gets to 0.04 or 0.05, it will not be advisable for you to operate or drive motor vehicles. But there is no law that prohibits that in Nigeria. In Nigeria, what the law says is that if you have taken alcohol and it has gotten to the degree where it will affect your ability to control motor vehicles, you will not do that. And the one good thing about that is that if a police officer or any other person who is permitted to do that reasonably suspects that you have taken, you are under the influence of alcohol while you're operating, you're driving your vehicles and all that, he can arrest you without even any warrant. So it's a very serious issue. Once you are under the influence of alcohol, you are not permitted to drive. And if you do that, any police officer around can get you arrested. And you find out that at the end of the day, a charge may be preferred against you. If that happens, if you are convicted, eventually you will be sentenced to prison or some fine may be imposed against you. That's the position here in Nigeria.
This offense of alcoholism, is it a criminal offense or just a mere thought?
Drinking under the influence of alcohol is not a thought. It's a serious offense. It's not just that it's an offense. It is a very serious offense. But it's so unfortunate that here in Nigeria, we don't take issues that ought to be taken seriously.
Can we simply say it's a criminal offense?
No, of course it's a criminal offense. And the law says, the law provides clearly specify the number of months or years you will be sentenced to prison if you are found guilty of driving under the influence of alcohol. So there is no doubt about it. It is a criminal offense. It's not a civil wrong or a civil offense. No, it is a criminal offense. A criminal offense is an offense against the state. When you commit an offense against the state. And the one thing that distinguishes a criminal offense from civil offense is that if you commit a criminal offense, or if you are liable, if you commit criminal offense, you'll find out that at the end of the day, after judging you that you have committed the offense, you will at the same time be sentenced to imprisonment, or you may equally, a fine may equally be imposed against you. That's the position.
Let's take a break here. We may have to embark on a short break. We'll be right back.
Welcome on board. Anambra Broadcasting Service Television, Channel 24, brings to you exciting programs.
What's the aim?
nwanne m na-ege ntị ịṅụ nkwụ were anya moto abụrụ ezigbo ife o ji aga ABS sụọ Igbo fa sụọ Igbo bụ ka ọha na eze na-ege ntị ma Igbo gụrụ akwụkwọ na Igbo agụghị akwụkwọ ka aghọta ife a na-ekwu. Oge Krismas ka anyị nọ, ọ dịghị mma mmadụ ṅụwa nkwụ nwụsị aṅụrụ anya obunie mosaịkụl buru moto mapụta n'ụzọ. A sị na nnukwute ịda iwu ka ọ bụ oyibo na-akpọ ya criminal offense, ọ bụrụ na obere ịda iwu na nnukwu ịda iwu ka ọ bụ. So o wee bụrụ ya dịka mgbe a ya amalite imepe igwe eji ajụ ajụjụ mara na ife anyị na-ekwu maka ya bụ ọṅụ nkwụ chaa n'ụzọ hapụ moto hapụ machine. Ife anyị na-ekwu maka ya ebe a. So back to council. I want to ask you the next question. What are the negative impact of being convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol? There are some negative impact when somebody is found guilty of driving under the influence of alcohol. Can you?
The law, they say, speaks for itself. The fact that you have been found guilty of driving under the influence of alcohol has already created a negative impact about yourself. As I was saying before we went on the break, I was saying that in Nigeria, for example, if you are found guilty of driving under the influence of alcohol, you may be sentenced to 2 years imprisonment or an option of 400, 4,000 or 5,000 naira, or both of them. That is enough negative impact on your personality and all that. And we find out that in Nigeria here, we don't take issues relating to driving under the influence of alcohol very serious, unlike in other jurisdictions. In UK, for example, if you are found guilty of driving under the influence of alcohol, you may spend up to 14 years imprisonment. You may spend up to 14 years in prison. That's to tell you how serious issues relating to that is. But in Nigeria here, sometimes it's only merely 6 months imprisonment, sometimes with the option of fine. Sometimes you may only be cautioned, be allowed to go. But the fact that you have been convicted, you have become an ex-convict.
And the person may come out and be given a chieftaincy title in addition.
That's the funny thing. You are an ex-convict. Politically speaking, there are certain positions you may not be allowed to vie for, only because you have been convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol. Because it is not every position in Nigeria that an ex-convict may be allowed to vie for within a limited or specified number of years. So the impact, as I said initially, speaks for itself. Thank you.
Okay, well, in addition, again, if somebody, for example, who is under employment somewhere is sentenced to some months imprisonment, the person comes out, or when the person comes out, is it likely he may still continue with the former job? Here in Nigeria, it is possible.
Well, it depends on whom your employer is. You know, issues bordering or relating to employment, they are contractual. And in a well-privatized system, you find out that government may not unnecessarily interfere in the relationship between an employer and his employee and all that. But the fact is that you are an ex-convict. If, for example, your employer is looking for a way to lay you off, and at the end of the day, you are convicted and your personality is attached with that stigma as convict, the person, your employer, may rely on that to sack you, and you may not have any case against the person, but yet,
the person may be demoted in the office.
You may be demoted subject to the terms and conditions of your employment. That's like I said before, is contractual, and contracts there are always terms and conditions. So, subject to the terms and conditions of your employment, you may be demoted, you may be sacked, you may be cautioned, your salary may be suspended for a number of years, and all that. And if, for example, you are sentenced to prison without an option of fine, and what that means is that you must be in prison custody for a number of time to serve your jail term and all that. Of course, within that period, you are not entitled to any payments. And as I said before, your employer may equally rely on that to mete out certain punishments to you. So it's a very serious issue. And my advice to the general public is to, whenever you are under the influence of alcohol, to try as much as possible to stay away from vehicle and all that. But the funny thing is that you find out that, especially during festive period, when you get to joints, you see car parks everywhere. And when you ask the question, who are the owners of these cars, you find out that they are in various bars, drinking alcohol and things like that. And when he gets that, they will enter their vehicle and begin to drive. Someone who has been drinking since morning is a very bad thing. And I think that is the area where the relevant government authorities have not been living up to expectations, especially the law enforcement agencies. I don't see any reason why someone who has been in the bar from morning or from afternoon to the night, at the end of the day, you enter your car and you drive home. And as I was saying before, I find out that Road Safety Commissioner has once presented a report to the public where they claim that 90% of all the accidents in our highways are caused by human factors. And the leading human factors, according to them, is alcohol. So it's a very serious issue. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to talk more on that. People went home or for one thing or the other. You park your vehicles along the roadside for hours. What are you doing? You are in the bar, you are drinking. At the end of the exercise, you jump into your vehicle. There is every tendency that dangers might strike, and when it happens, we are talking of nothing but not ghastly motor accident, but fatal accident where lives may be lost. So there is thing you can from now start making calls. The numbers are clearly written on your screens, 07062724192. The other one is 09072972090. For clarity, you can pick the number clearly from your screen there, and you may have to make your calls and send your questions to the council here with me in the studio. So, council, the next question is, can you just enumerate on the dangers of driving under the influence of alcohol? Now you can go on and on and on with the danger aspect of driving under the influence of alcohol. What are the negative? No, enumerate on the dangers of driving under the influence of alcohol.
Well, as I stated earlier in passing, you find out that these dangers that are associated with driving under the influence of alcohol, they are so visible that even a blind man or a blind woman...
We have a caller here.
Hello?
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, your name and location.
Hello?
Hello, we are hearing you. Your name and location.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can I find your name and location? We've lost that call there. Go ahead, counsel.
Yes, as I was saying, that the impact or the negative effects of driving under the influence of alcohol are so obvious that even a blind person can see it. You find out that most cases it leads to accidents. And as you stated earlier, not just a mere gastric motor accident, but a very fatal motor accident, which may, in most cases, lead to the loss of human lives and all that, properties and all that. So you find out that it's very dangerous. It's not only the life of the person who is under the influence of alcohol, so to speak, but also the lives of other load users. And that's why the act of driving under the influence of alcohol is criminalized.
Excuse me, we have a caller. Hello? Hello? Go ahead, Counsel.
Yes, as I was saying, it is not only the life of the person who is under the influence of alcohol that is at stake, but also the life of other load users. Their lives are equally at stake. You find out that when an accident happens, you wouldn't know who will be the victim at the end of the day. Some innocent people may lose their life merely because someone soaked himself up in alcohol and all that. It's very painful. So as I was saying, loss of life, destruction of public properties, injuries may be caused to the person who is under the influence of alcohol or some other...
Permanent disabilities.
Permanent disability and all manner of unfortunate situations may be occasioned as a result of driving under the influence of alcohol. So, the negative impacts of that is limitless. We cannot, there are so much. Some people are orphaned today because someone was driving under the influence of alcohol. Some people have lost their husbands. Some people have lost their wives. Some people have lost their
Some are thrown out of school because their father died.
Yes, because their father died. Just merely because
someone accident.
Just soak himself up with alcohol and begin to drive at the expense of the life of other, safety of other load users.
Hello? Go on.
It is so unfortunate. And as I said before, government must take serious action to make sure that it may not be totally stopped, but they have to take serious action to make sure that it is reduced to a minimal level, so that people will no longer find it fashionable to drive while they are under the influence of alcohol, because it is very dangerous.
Council, yes. I want you to look at this thing now. Recently, we talked about nuisance, and we talked about people who mount canopies at the center of the road, doing one thing or the other, either funeral or one of those celebrations of one thing or the other. We said that such thing is a nuisance. Public nuisance. Right again now, people at the same time who block the road with chairs and tables, people are drinking. If you go to Agolo at times, you see them along the road. If you go to Oga, my own town, you still see them. A lot of villages, they are like that. What are they doing? They are drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, some of them Indian hemp. This is nuisance plus alcoholism. So what shall we do in such a situation? Is the police doing enough? If the police should stop there and start arresting people, I don't think it's wrong. What do you say?
Well, like...
let's know if we can get this caller. Hello? 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 Go ahead.
Well, in Nigeria, good laws are never in short supply. What I mean by this is that we have a number of good laws. Do you know that every state in Nigeria has a load safety laws? Every state in Nigeria, almost every state in Nigeria. And at the federal level we have federal highway laws. We have Federal Road Safety Commission Act and all that. So there are so many laws. The problem with Nigeria is the issue of implementation. And that's actually where the problem is. You find out that we have all these laws that make provisions outlawing, banning, and prohibiting all these conducts, including driving under the influence of alcohol. But when it comes to implementation, you find out that those that you expect to implement these laws will be the first violators of these laws. And that's very dangerous, because the policemen are not excluded from this particular issue. You find out that some policemen, they will gather at the bar, all of them, including the person that will drive them out at the end of the day, consuming liquor, drinking alcohols, and all that. And at the end of the day, they will jump into their vehicles and begin to drive. So there are laws. But the problem is with the implementation of these laws. Nothing stops. As I stated before, police officer, once you reasonable suspect that someone is driving under the influence of alcohol. Not only that someone is driving under the influence of alcohol, once you reasonably suspect that someone who is under the influence of alcohol is attempting to drive, you can arrest that person without any warrant. In other ways, you can arrest the person at the spot. So there are laws, but the problem is with the implementation of these laws.
Too many laws in Nigeria.
Too many laws, but poor, very poor implementation.
They are not being implemented. Yes. And the law enforcement agents you mentioned, the police, for example, if they should embark on arresting people who drink anyhow, losing lives on road mishaps and all that, I think they have to start internally with that operation, because within the police rank and file and the senior officers, you still see some of them who got disgraced along the road somewhere. They drink and sleep off. At times you see them, well, so that I will not be arrested, let me stop here. The next question I want to ask you, to what extent does car insurance company subrogate a person found guilty of fatal or ghastly motor accident? This issue of subrogation, does it work?
Well, again,
does it work when somebody is guilty of whether it is fatal accident or ghastly motor accident? Does it still work?
Well, again, I have to state that issues bordering on insurance is contractual in nature. So it's actually, to a very large extent, it depends on what the terms and conditions of the insurance or the policy is all about. So it's subject to the terms of insurance. But the point is this: if the person is responsible for...
Get this caller. Okay. Hello?
Hello?
Your name and...
Hello?
Yeah, your name and location.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name and location?
Okay.
Can I find a BC Abo?
Okay.
Amaka Okoye, can I be Sabo? Can I be Sabo?
It's like cookie.
We're not getting her. Hello?
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 Hello? Hello?
Please go ahead.
Well, as I was saying before, issues pertaining to or issues bordering on insurance is contractual. And when an issue is contractual, it means that whatever thing that happens, whatever outcome will be subject to the terms and conditions of the contract, what is simply referred to as a contract. So it's always well defined. But generally, you find out that when the person is responsible for what the loss he has suffered, no reasonable insurance company will pay him any compensation of any kind. It is, in fact, it's an integral part of insurance policy.
So it is the
self-inflicted losses cannot be insured. So you find out that at the end of the day, you bear your cost, you bear your loss, you suffer whatever thing. And now, driving under the influence of alcohol, there are two legal issues involved. You find out that it's possible for someone, it's possible for the person not, sometimes they say this person was drugged. So you are intoxicated, not because you chose to be intoxicated, but because some other person is responsible for that.
How?
So it's possible. It's possible for someone to, for example, you are
intoxicated under duress.
No, not under duress. It's possible to have, but it's possible for you to be drugged, and after drugging you may be forced to drink alcohols and all that, and at the end of the day, you may, because at that point you are no longer in control of your senses. So at the end of the day, you may see yourself driving and all that. So if you can establish that it wasn't a case of self-infliction, or if you can establish that you are not the one responsible for the whole act, you may still be entitled to some compensations from the company. But the insurance company, at the end of the day, will go after the person who intoxicated you. That's the only way someone who is driving under the influence of alcohol may avoid liability for the losses it suffers while in that state of affairs.
Okay, thank you. This is ABS Television, Channel 2 for Oka. The topic here is driving under the influence of alcohol, and this is Citizens and the Law on ABS Television, Channel 2 with Barrister Chika Okeke here in the studio. Let's take a short break again. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back still on Citizens and the Law. So, Council, I don't know, though you are not a road safety official, but let me see how far you can go. Can you come on with the statistics and the effects of driving under the influence of alcohol? Do you have any statistics?
Well, as you rightly pointed out, I am not in the better position to make that assessment, but yet I can still make reference to some of the statistical figures the appropriate body, in this case, Federal Road Safety Commission, has in the time past produced. As I stated earlier, Road Safety Commission had once stated that 90%, they were specific. 90% of road accidents are usually as a result of human factors. And according to them, the leading human factor who is always and consistently responsible for these road accidents is driving under the influence of alcohol. In other words, alcohol. So they have come up with a figure, a specific figure, over 90%. And you find out that these accidents usually occurs, or they normally happens during festive period. And that is why I think a program of this nature is very timely and very important. Because you find out it usually happens during festive period, like Xmas, Sisters, New Year festivals, and all that. And here, Christmas is here again. And people have started coming home from far and near. And at the end of the day, you see them gathering up at the village squares and some other prominent places, drinking alcohols. They park their beautiful cars. After showcasing their beautiful cars, they're moving into a bar. And they begin to consume alcohol and other things, other substances. And at the end of the day, why in that condition, they will jump into their vehicles and begin to drive their vehicles. Why they are clearly under the influence of alcohol.
I think that one will also take care of drinking and driving. When they say if you must drink, don't drive. If you must drive, don't drink. What you said is capable of taking care of that.
It's a popular balance. Yes, it is.
Okay, the next one is what do you have to say about drunk truck drivers? Drunk truck drivers. Usually they have only one headlamp at the middle of their trucks. What do you have to say about this and other road users? Number one, they have only one headlamp at the center of their trucks or big buses. Number two, they are equally drunk. I think the offenses are up to two.
But we have to put we have to separate the questions, because in law we normally call questions like this double barrel. So, and in order to answer the question very well, you have to deal with one first. And I think I'm going to apply the same method, which we normally do in the courtrooms.
Go ahead.
Issue of operators or drivers of highly articulated vehicles, drinking alcohol. You know that whenever accident occurs with respect to these articulated vehicles, the impact is always very serious. The impact is always very serious. But you find out that most of them, I can assure you, over 90% of these are people that are driving these articulated vehicles. If they are not smoking, they are drinking. And at the end of the day, the funny thing is that the authority responsible for checkmating these people, in most cases, they don't have the facility to check whether these people are driving under the influence of alcohol. So it's very dangerous. And I think something very serious must be done to ensure that the drivers of these articulated vehicles, they are free from alcohol. They shouldn't drive alcohol at all. Because you find out that most times these people, they ply the laws in the night. And you find out that after taking alcohol, you may become less concentrated, you may become you may fall asleep as a result of that, but yet they are still drinking this alcohol. So it's very dangerous. Then coming to the second arm of the question, issues relating to drivers of these articulated vehicles having only one light at the center of the frontage of their vehicle. It is very bad, but it's not only bad, the law is against it. The law specifically stated that every vehicle, including the articulated vehicle, they have two lamps at the head, at the two ends of the head. And if you must have a lamp at the center of the vehicle, you must obtain the necessary approval from the body responsible for that. You dare not do that without the approval of the authority responsible for that, in this case, Federal Road Safety Commission. You must obtain the authority before you can do that. But even if you will have it at the center of your vehicle, you must have the other two lamps at the end, so that other road users will not think that there is a motorcycle that is coming. They will know that what is coming is not just a vehicle, but a very, very, very mighty vehicle. So it's very dangerous.
What do you have to say about this selling of alcohol at the motor parks? I used to hear that there is a law prohibiting the sale of liquor, alcohol at the motor parks. Is that law still in place?
Well, I'm not aware of any law in Nigeria. I am aware there are such laws in other jurisdictions. But as I stated earlier, issues pertaining to driving under the influence of alcohol is not taken very serious here in Nigeria. It is not given the attention it deserves. And that is why, up to at this moment, as I am talking to you now, there is no law known to me which is against selling of alcohol, drugs, and other substances at the motor parks, at the bus stops, and at the garage. It is so unfortunate that there is a law which is against driving under the influence of alcohol, but there is no law that is saying that alcohols or drugs will not be sold at the motor parks.
But there is this issue, misunderstanding that used to arise between the road safety officers and passengers. There is this what we call the breathalyzer that enables them to know if somebody is actually drunk. Because drivers, if their vehicles, at times when the vehicles are being loaded, they go somewhere, some of them are smoking, some of them are taking beer. So when they come, and these guys will come out with their breathalyzer to check if actually they are drunk before embarking on the journey. The passengers will begin to react against it, saying that their time is being taken away, that they are wasting their time. Most times, something happens in the negative.
Well.
So why would the road safety officers go to the motor park with their breathalyzer?
Actually, that is what we're supposed to be. But as I stated before, the starting point will be stopping having a law, a legislation in place which prohibits selling of alcohols in motor parks or garage. Who are the people who are buying those alcohols that are being sold in the motor parks? Who are the people buying them? They are the drivers. And before the vehicle takes off, you see them drinking and all that. And that's where I always blame the passengers. When you see someone who will drive you to your destination coming out from a bar, or you see someone that will take you, not only you, it is you and everything that you stand for. It is you and your generation unborn. That person will take you to your destination, and that person is coming from a bar, or you saw the person drinking alcohol. You have a responsibility to notify the transport company in place, or the managers of the bar. Notify them. And if they insist on doing nothing, you have to on board from the vehicle, because the safety of your life should be the paramount thing, and not getting to the place you are going. Because if you must get to your destination, you must get to your destination alive. So it is your responsibility to notify the bodies responsible for, disciplining those drivers. But if they insist, you have to on board and make sure. But you will not stop at that. Take a step further by notifying the appropriate authorities, like Road Safety Commission, like Nigerian Police Force and other. Tell them that these people are allowing those drivers who are drinking, who are under the influence of alcohol.
Council, we don't have much time more, but I just want you to talk to our people, advise the road users on the necessary thing they need to do this Yuletide period to prevent themselves from being involved in road mishaps.
Well, my advice to the general public who are listening to us and watching us this evening is that you have to be very, very mindful of what you do with alcohol. The law is not against, especially in the southern part of Nigeria, the law is not against drinking of alcohol. You are free to drink alcohol to whatever degree you want. It is your personal life. The law is only against what you will do when you are under the influence of alcohol. And one of the things you will not do when you are under the influence of alcohol is that you don't drive. And it's for your own safety. You say that self-preservation is the first law. So you have to make sure that your own life is saved. And the starting point is making sure that while you are under the influence of alcohol, you don't drive. And more importantly, the life of other road users are also at stake. So my advice is that when you are drunk, don't drive. And if you must drive, please, don't.
When you are drunk, don't drive. If you must drive, don't drink. That's the last word from Barrister Chiko Keke. In our today's edition of Citizens and the Law, topic has been driving under the influence of alcohol. Council, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
And from me, Jude Mascot Obiagu, the presenter of the program, Happy Christmas once more.
Thank you.
Next week, we are coming back with another interesting topic.